Hello everyone, this is my research question presentation. I'll be talking about facial expression recognition and domain generalization. Nowadays, more and more companies provide services that require communication with humans, and the success of that products that require communication between computer and human is determined by the success of that communication. For example, in the picture, you can see a researcher who's talking to virtual created avatar of his daughter. As he says, we create intelligent and emotionally aware interactions between people and machines. To give some background, let us start with the fact that the gap between machines and humans becomes increasingly apparent with time. A lot of information comes from humans non-verbally. We call that signals, and uh, more than 90% of that signals come in visual way, and reading these visual signals is one of the ground points in human interaction systems. Understanding the relationship between these signals and facial expressions allow us to decrease the gap. So as a consequence, computers can learn empathy and understand customer needs better and provide customers a better service. Let us start with the project we have already done previous semester, encoder decoder neutralizing. The idea of our project was taken from object-oriented programming. As we know, there is some class which is abstract class, and it has some child classes which are built by implementing some of the features of abstract class. So, uh, for example, dogs. There are three kinds of dogs on the slide. They all are dogs. They share something in common, and this something in common is represented as dog abstract class. And a particular kind of dog, for example, Shiba Inu, is implemented by taking this abstract dog and adding some details that determine this kind of a dog. For example, color of skin, etc., etc. Uh, we build this analogy in facial expression recognition. So we have a neutral facial expression as an abstract class, and we have some particular facial expressions like happy, angry, surprised, sad, disgust. We might also have contempt and others. So they are built with neutral facial expression plus some details added above. And those details actually determine one expression to be different from another. So these are the discriminative features. And having this assumption in mind, we have built an encoder decoder neutralizer model to capture those details. And thus, we have found a new way for learning features for facial expression classification. The results we have achieved so far are on the slide. On the first two pictures, you can see how the model works on a single dataset. On the first slide, it was trained on a single dataset and tested on the same dataset. On the second, the same situation but with another dataset. On the third picture, you can see that a model trained on a single dataset and tested on another one works poor. So uh, two facial expressions of the same kind are uh, discriminated from each other. They are segregated, separated. So while model works well for a single dataset, it works poor in real life cases, in this generalized case. And in our research, we want to add this generalization for our model. And our research question sounds like, what are the domain generalization optimizations of encoder decoder neutralizer framework available for facial expression recognition? Let me explain. There is a topic, facial expression recognition. There is a task. We have built a model for this task, which we call encoder decoder neutralizer. This model works poor in real life cases. So we want to add some domain generalization optimizations or improvements, one might say, to make the model fit real world cases. So this is our motivation behind the research. This would lead us to finding a new way of facial expression recognition and open up opportunities with applications in psychology, sociology, driver safety, virtual reality, cognitive sciences, medical sciences, etc. etc. Researchers have already done some work in this field. I would split that in four parts. Um, Classical facial expression recognition relies only on traditional machine learning methods. It doesn't require any neural models, and more than that, nowadays almost every technology that works with images works on top of convolutional neural networks, residual neural networks. Um, these all are neural models. Thirdly, I want to cover more specifically encoder-decoder systems, as our system also relies on encoder-decoder architecture, and we want to cover these systems in more detail. Last thing is domain adaptation and generalization. This is very important for our research, as this is the key uh, key point of our research. We want to add generalization and adaptation methods to our model. Let me evaluate my research question according to some criteria. This research is very specific to neutralizer framework, but we are not limited in adaptation methods to use. That's why it's focused on a narrow problem. It's not broad, but it's not even over limited. So we have some freedom in this sense. It would lead us to new knowledge, because we would find a new way of feature extraction for the task of facial expression recognition. It hasn't been adequately answered by the existing literature. Of course not, because we present the new framework for solving the task, so it couldn't be already answered. The researcher has a method for answering the question. Yes, the standard methods of domain adaptation will be applied to our framework, and we'll see the results and compare them to find the best technique. The potential answer can be tested, of course, by data sets, and this also answers the third question. So we will measure the efficiency by uh, testing our solution on data sets which are usually used for benchmarking the solutions. So there is no problem in this part. It will be considered of value even if the hypothesis is proven false. Yes, because we would analyze the capabilities of our framework, which is already a result, and even if it doesn't fit the real world case, as a consequence, we would have tested that hypothesis, and this is already a result. The project is limited in scope. Yes, it is limited in time, but it's not limited in place or group, because everyone can contribute, but we have a deadline because this is a thesis work. The data can be gathered legally. Yes, we will use open source datasets, for example, Jafi, Japanese dataset, Taiwanese dataset, there is Concanat dataset, and many others. Even if we need some privately accessible dataset, we can ask, because this is done for the research purposes, not for the commercial purposes. So some of the organizations provide datasets for research only. The researcher has the necessary skills. Yes, I have some skills in machine learning and computer vision. Thanks to the courses and thanks to the project, I have some skills in this task. So I have already implemented the neutralizer framework and I will just continue the work. The project can be completed within the time scale. Yes, we can have a baseline project which will be completed very soon, and uh, everything we add afterwards is an improvement, so we can add as much improvements as we can manage. So the project is already completed when we have some baseline model. Thank you for the attention. I would provide the references with the slides.